How is this anything? What is beauty? Overall, the way I can personally understand it is that beauty is the standard that we put to things in order to process what is beneficial for us in some way. I could separate it into two roughly generalized main categories that just kind of make everything else stem from there. Those two are security and power. Although both things are entangled, you can separate them both and focus yourself in just one category to implement those beauty standards however you are interested in. Hi, by the way. I feel like I need to explain a little bit about myself in order to give a vague idea of where I'm coming from to talk about stuff like this. I'm a plastic artist. I've been doing this for over a decade now. I have gripes with the title artist and whatever, but that's another thing. One thing you get from a career like this is an eye for aesthetic. Art is aesthetic. Aesthetic is created via art, and from there on it translates to everything else. My fixation is always to translate beauty somehow, highlighting it or transforming it in order to make it real, even if you couldn't see it before. In order to thrive, we need to find beauty so that we can discard what we find ugly, right? In other words, toxic or harmful to us, to find order and feel secure. In general, it always sums up to those things, order and security. We find those things more appealing, even beautiful, you might say, even if it wasn't very obvious or straightforward. If you always want to dig into the bottom of whatever it is that you find beautiful, you will always find yourself reaching those points way deep in there. Now, on the theme of security, the reason why I think we develop beauty standards in order to get security is because, as animals that we are, just like them, we develop a standard of what is good for us in everything about our lives, like what is healthier, safer, or more promising. For example, ripe fruit, a clean space, or a cozy spot to settle in. Things that are harmless for us depending on what we need. For example, a rotten corpse is hideous for us because it represents a biohazard or a possibility of imminent danger, and in a more metaphorical way, remembrance of our own mortality. But for example, that's totally the opposite for a vulture. They have the immune system not to worry about that potential disease that corpse can bring. They're not generally scared of other predators killing them. A rotten carcass is probably totally beautiful for them. That applies to everything. We find chubby, wide-eyed, compact shape, I want to call it like that, creatures overall cute because they remind us of our own human babies, which trigger our protective instincts and reminds us that things are safe, right, for the future. And then that pattern in our heads causes someone to find a chubby little stuffed toy beautiful, even if it's representing a blowfish. Clean, transparent water means it's safe to drink. It means survival. It means cleanliness. It's beautiful. Physical cleanliness, symmetry, and a certain level of thickness, let's call it, roughly telegraphs to you a certain level of possible health, most likely, maybe very highly likely. It can tell you, for example, that a woman with those characteristics will be able to bear a child that is going to be healthy, strong, and, alive. And most importantly, she's not gonna, die midway through. And men with those characteristics will more likely gonna be healthier too, strong, and able to do whatever strenuous task could present itself in any given moment, and they're gonna survive, most likely, to come back and tell the tale. More or less, you can hideously summarize it as such. And then there's power. Using those previous traits, you can now start to understand how beauty standards can be implemented to obtain power. And power is status. Status is power. And power makes you feel safer. That's the whole point of getting power. Offering more beautiful options than your competitions guarantees more power to you. Just like with everything else on which beauty can be applied to achieve power, um, at least regarding to the subject of this video, being the most attractive, as you would say, beautiful, gives you a higher possibility to secure that your genes are going to be inherited to the next generation. For example, wider shoulders means higher lung capacity and bigger chest muscles, so making you more apt for endurance and having overall better health and stronger, like those well-toned muscles that you're gonna have most likely all over the rest of your body. That's probably why you are taller too, taller than those other shrimpy men around. Wider hips in women, for example, means healthier, most likely a more fertile mate that can secure better feeding for the child that she could possibly bear with her more voluptuous. You get the idea. It's generally believed that some of the most ancient mass-produced sculptures we have found from early history are those voluminous figurines of the chubby females. They call them the Venuses, right? You know those. You've seen those, probably most likely. Believed to represent a divine representation of fertility, and we don't know what other use they might have had. I'm kidding. I'm making people. We don't really know those people well enough to give them the standards that we have right now and the uses that we give to things right now. I mean, I am pretty sure that 99% of people in these times would have had no idea what you're talking about these images. You know what I mean. But I guess you could say in an era where people needed to be more prepared for climate harshness and long periods of food scarcity, chubby or buddy would be synonymous with beauty, right? One of the most iconic images most people think about when you mention the word beautiful, regardless of culture or even age. Although, although I'm not really sure about about that anymore. To be honest, I'm not really that in touch with like younger people or whatever. So I'm guessing. Well, it's Marilyn Monroe, right? The definitive beauty icon of pop culture. Although you can say she has not always fit the standard that well since she was, in vogue. She has a shapely, curvy, feminine figure that fits the standard now again, but that wasn't the case like 20 years ago. Hell, it's not necessarily the case that much today either, if you really think about it. She doesn't have muscle tone to begin with at all. And her butt, for example, is just like proportionate to all of the rest of her shape, which is very shapely and voluptuous. But she's not enormous. I'm not complaining about an enormous butt, but you know what I mean. It's not that thickness is not the norm nowadays or anything like that. But her particular shape overall could be considered average nowadays, normie. Look at her. Look at that. Plus size has kind of gotten in vogue nowadays. She's not really plus size. She's not really like real plus size. She's just normal. She wouldn't really stand up too much if she was a model today, in my opinion. She would need like Botox lips, at least, and she would probably need a nose and chin job that made her look natural, but also at the same time prevent her from not just looking normal, right? Not just a beautiful girl, but instead a better beautiful girl. Am I explaining myself? You get the idea? Matter of fact, for example, I'm pretty sure there must be a couple of people out there that hate her image because it promotes a toxic ideal of classic beauty with her conventional feminine look and her facial features and stuff like that. We live in a very interesting time where beauty standards are both either super conventional to a point of forcing quote unquote icons to look borderline unattractive on purpose, or on the other hand, you need to look way beyond the limits of what beautiful can be understood as. I don't have time in this video to judge which one is better than the other or whatever, or get too much in depth about any of that shit. I just know it's not as black as white as one might imagine it at first glance, and I would like to explore that, more in the future. But for now, let's just look at beauty queens from before, like vintage beauty queen pictures from like before. Miss America 1925. Just look at everything here, really. Imagine her even being able to compete nowadays. And she's not really ugly when you really see her. Is this the same one? I think it is. As far as I can tell, this is the same one. But look at her, she's pretty. You can't tell me she's not. Symmetrical features, defined jawline, B-shaped, uh, proportionate nose, mouth, eyes, very pretty defined eyebrows. Everything's just harmonious. She's like, she's technically, objectively pretty. But come on, nowadays she would barely pass as average at best. And can you imagine her winning a beauty pageant? Imagine just her being a beauty icon nowadays, even with all of this body positivity movements or whatever, all of these mass media attempts to shove the idea in your head that it's actually more like politically correct to make people, especially women, uh, at the least quote unquote sexualized. But when you actually think about it, it's what does that even mean? But at the end of the day, I feel it's just hypocrisy of people that don't really know how to be a good person, so they just make up ways to feel like they are and make you believe that they are. So that's another story. I don't want to get into it right now. I don't even have anything really against modern beauty standards or anything like that. I just feel that it's very interesting to just kind of dive into those things because it's something that is rarely explored too much in depth. I feel, I guess. Instead of just pointing out this is good, this is bad, I feel that I prefer to just kind of explore and see what's even going on. Anyways, it says right here Miss World 1970. She says Miss Harley told me some girls would be backed by certain groups, but she told me not to worry. It's not my fault. It's Miss World. I don't understand the message, but Miss World 1970. But wait, stop a little bit. The thing is that the fashion apparel, kind of clouds your judgment a little bit, but really look at her. And also, just imagine a picture of like a Miss Beauty anything being shared, and that's the picture. It wouldn't. It's totally unflattering, but okay, like mentally dress her hair differently, more modern, just straight down. Change the outfit a little bit, even though it's not that terrible of an outfit. Um, but if you look at her, she actually has kind of modern standard when it comes to her face. Look at the cheekbones, the lips, the eyebrows more than anything. Look at that. Miss Universe here. Somehow, for whatever reason, I can picture her in like an office. The standard here that comes to my mind is like the manager at some place. Like I feel the makeup too. I don't know jack shit about makeup, but I feel that also the pictures in black and white. But I feel that makeup has evolved to a point where it just makes anybody look like astonishing in comparison to like those times where it looked more basic. This girl now, nowadays she would be like, "Oh, I'm so traumatized by my hooked nose." I just covered one girl that looked similar to this, the hooked nose, and I talked about how people with hooked noses like this tend to have like smaller jawline, like tend to have like the lower part of the face be like kind of lower, more smaller somehow, deeper somehow, and more prominent eyebrows. You see what I mean? Now you see what I mean? If she was like she was back then, if she was right now also into the beauty sphere, right? However you want to call that. Oh, she would be like nose job, lips gone immediately. You know, you know it. Those lips unacceptable. That nose, it's bringing me trauma or some shit like that. And the eyebrows, there you go. I mean, look at this guy. I mean, he's jacked up, but he's like your gym normie nowadays. These guys are below natty standards when it comes to bodybuilding, to fitness influencer. This guy is you would need a fitness influencer to train these guys. More accurately, introduce these guys into certain enhancers. Weightlifter and bodybuilder, April 1951. I'm pretty sure that if you met this guy in real life, he would be huge. It's just that nowadays the standard is be huger, right? But not only muscle tone, right? Look at these fine blocks here. Would would you think these guys would be boy band material nowadays? Come on. Not nowadays. You know who they are, by the way, right? I'm not gonna mention it because you know it. Look at this. Girl, your nose, fix it. What is this? This is unacceptable. None of you are prepared for 2025. The outfit, though. Someone went to Justice back in 2002. Or is that what girls did? I don't know girly things that much. Surprisingly enough, I know surface level shit. Is that what this outfit is screaming? I don't know. It's something. I'm warm, right? I don't know. Forever 21. I wanted to make a reference. Whatever. They used this image because this was the ideal, right? And you can tell. How old was he supposed to be, anyways? 25 or 45? This was a thing, right? Like the ideal, the guy was like somewhat like older somehow. Like they always like wrinkly. This was probably like a 17-year-old, just very wrinkly. And I don't know, it's just like it was always like that, like an older man, and very little muscle tone. But the overall features were like very or overly masculine. More than muscles, it was more of manliness, if that makes sense. It is semi commonly known nowadays, if you are slightly nerdy about history, that during the Renaissance era, the beauty standard for noble women was huge foreheads and no eyebrows, pretty much, accompanied with corpse-like milky white skin because they weren't gross working class commoners farming under the sun. So unlike nowadays where a healthy nice tan is sought after by a lot of people, especially like rich people, to barbecue levels of beauty. It is known that Mayan elites, for example, used to shape their heads long in order to appeal higher class. A lot of people know that. Pretty much everybody knows that. But did you know that they would cross-eye too, with clay balls attached to their frontal hair in order to appear more beautiful? Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, that was a thing. I found one source that says the solar god Kinish Hahau was represented with cross eyes, so that's where they got that idea from. They wanted to look like that, which is most likely true. I mean, most likely. And it was considered super, super vogue. Standards of beauty, for the most part, intend to be dictated by the higher classes in order to establish their status above the commoners. From like sun-free skin, chubbier bodies, zero muscle that indicates you have workers doing things for you, a longer cranium like the gods, a skinnier body because you're in 2001, and excess of food is for gross, common, unsophisticated normies now. If these men were real men then what am I now? Remember that during the 50s, pretty much all the way to the 80s, the idea of a sexy man was an aging, rugged guy with zero muscle tone. This used to be the accepted idea of a handsome, ideal man for the longest time, even like in the medieval eras. Early body muscles looked below amateur levels in today's standard. Muscle mamas now tend to be way bigger or just as ripped as most of those guys. Things started to inflate. Oh, everybody, hang on to something. We derailed here. We lost the plot. Emergency. Remember what I said? Chubby, fertility, health. Somewhat, this has to translate to that somehow. Even though I don't. This is why I actually wanted to make this. I wanted to cope with stuff like this. Just pointing out things and being like, huh. Can get boring, actually. I needed to understand. People are lonely now, for example, and somebody that big is usually somebody that's gonna be dependent on you because they can't move. Uh, I don't know. There's something there. There's something. Trust me, there's something there. I know. I don't have time for it right now. Let's move on. Cause what the hell? What even is that? What makes. How? You know what? Here. Okay. Yeah, a big butt. I get it. Yeah, sure. I'm into a big butt, right? But what is. How is this anything? Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Listen. And then the car wheels? Why? How? What is that even at all? Like, okay, you want to get deeper into it? Hear me out. The guy's featureless. He's gray, right? You think he feels insignificant? Like, an NPC? A gray NPC? He doesn't know how to deal with things too much because he doodles too much. He doesn't emphasize anything about facial features. He's not probably a very social person. He probably struggles to read people, and that's why he can't reflect facial features in drawings. What could make you feel that this is anything remotely arousing? Let me see. Hold on. You think that maybe being teased somehow in early childhood with something that was confusing and made you have some kind of awakening at the same time? For example, I don't know. What about pareidolia? Okay, okay, okay. Hear me out. What about someone who's still developing and getting their awakening and having something that is some kind of inanimate object, but giving them a pareidolia of sexualized imagery, and somehow in their head over the years starts to develop into a fixation when you relate some kind of form of inanimate object or like abstract shape with sexuality. Can that be a thing? I don't know. I don't know. I'm probably being dumb. I don't want to look at this anymore. Come on, dude. How did we get to this? How is we can apply what I said already with this, but change it to Sandy. That's it. Moving on. Nah, nah. This is more than anything. This is also ugly. Like it's not appealing. You see what I mean? It's ugly. I guess it's not right for somebody. It's not. And how is this anything? Okay, I'm gonna describe. Oh, okay. I wanted to include this because I wanted to include this because. Okay, so I'm gonna describe the rest of the body here. The rest of the body is this shaft that you can see coming down from the head, and then around here, the hip, it's actually a rectangle, like a shoebox, and then the two little stick legs are attached to it, and everything else is coming out of there and in there, if you know what I mean. Remember everything that I said in the beginning? And now this. How is that? How that becomes this? You see why I wanted to do this? You get it now? Are you entertained? You know what? It sounds gross when you hear it, but when you look at it, I actually kind of get it. There's some kind of beauty there. A very uncanny, very unusual to the brim beauty there. Depending on the angle, I guess. No, there's no, no. There's no beauty here. Even as a piece of art, the other one, the stick figure one, at least it's somewhat pleasing with the color palette and the smoothness of the art and stuff. Like, what is this? Are you kidding me? How? This is real. Someone's into. Okay, that's true. Whatever that comment meant. Nick, your art is progressively getting better. Bro, I want a chunky, ugly, or Japanese man to fuck me. I don't care about this. I don't care about dick size. Someone's into this. Beauty standards nowadays are weird. People are into weird shit nowadays, dude. But I don't care about just knocking. The weirder, the most unusual, and like hard to decipher. You want to know why? How? What? Whoa, whoa! How is this a thing? Someone said, "Listen, more fucked up the better." Heart, um, ASCII code. Hope he killed his daughter to summon her. Whoa. Okay. They're very gifted and very intimidating. I mean, imagine all the layers and I'm not just trying to be funny. I mean it. Imagine all the layers this has to have in order to just be this. I can't get into it too much right now. Outfit and everything? Jesus, look at her. Remember this? It went viral for a while, like a couple of years ago. I never understood, but I wanted to. Oh, fuck off. This is not sexy. I get the idea. The idea is sexy. The execution is not. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She wasn't pretty. She's still not. She was so frustrated by not having the pretty features everybody desires that she went overboard with it and wanted them, but more than everybody else, and that's just not how it works. I lost steam here. I'm exhausted now. Yeah, bye. Bye.